Hello and welcome to the Longwood Women's Basketball Coaches Corner with head coach Bill Reinson. I'm your host, Scott Bacon. We appreciate you joining us again for another installment. And Coach, as always, we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Scott.
Got a week of basketball to talk about, two conference road games that the Lancers played last week. And let's start with the game on Thursday, Coach, at Winthrop, as the Eagles got some payback, earning a win over your Lancers.
Yeah, it was a really difficult game to play, and quite honestly, a difficult game to watch at times. Winthrop came out very strong, made a lot of baskets early. We missed our first 9 or 10 shots, and by the time you looked up, it was 23-4, and we just spent the rest of the day playing catch-up.
Now, you look back at that game, a team that you beat earlier that season. You think that was tough for your ladies, having a bit of a tough stretch in the season, then to lose to a team that they beat earlier in the year?
I don't know if that's the case. I think it was part of that tough stretch. You know, we were just kind of beaten down. We were a little bit tired, worn down, and we came there and just got a very hot Winthrop team, and I mean, the rest is kind of history.
Well, let's make it history and talk about the win that snapped the streak, beating a UNC Asheville team that hadn't earned a conference victory this season, but you went in there, earned the 67-54 victory, and picked up a road win.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing about that for us was not necessarily that we won, but how we won. The statistics kind of bear out that we played the way that we had been playing when we were winning. We didn't turn the basketball over. We did a very good job defensively, forced turnovers, and got a lot of easy baskets.
You were in control for much of that ball game, took a 4-point lead into the half, were able to stretch that in the second half. But in the early part of that second half, they got a bucket 10 seconds in, got back within a pair. As a coach, what's going through your mind right then?
At that point, I think we're in pretty good shape. I don't worry. I called a timeout about midway through the second half. They hit a couple threes in a row just to kind of stem the tide. But I felt that we were on top of things. I thought the 4-point lead at halftime probably should have been a little bit bigger. We missed some easy shots. We played pretty well in the first half. So I wasn't really concerned right there at the beginning of the second half.
Well, and we talked a lot about the team's mentality through that tough stretch. And going into that game, was it tough for you as a coach coming into a game where a team that hasn't won a conference game yet this year, feeling like you got a chance to get off the snide and get a win, to not apply too much pressure to your team?
Absolutely, all those things are true. UNC Asheville is going through a little bit of a transition. They had some injuries, some players sitting out, so they didn't really field their best team. But you know, understanding that they hadn't won a conference game, it was one of those where you had to balance between the two. We want to come out and play as hard as we can without overstating the fact that you know, there's a little bit of pressure on the game.
How about Chelsea Coward and the seniors' performance? 23 points, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals.
Yeah, she'd been incredible at the beginning of the year. She'd kind of gone into about a 3-week lull where I think she got a little bit tired, a little worn down. Hopefully this will be the beginning of another hot streak for her as we go towards the end of the season.
Well, and you talked about the team's play in this game a bit and returning to form. Did you feel like the team was getting back to where you'd hoped they would be at this point in the season?
Not where I'd hoped to be, but it was definitely a step in the right direction. Like I said, we didn't turn the ball over very often. We played very good defense, very good pressure defense, forced a lot of turnovers, and that's the way that we play the best. So if we can continue to do that this week, I think we'll be primed and ready to play in the tournament.
Now 10 wins on the season, 7 victories in conference play. Is that 10-win plateau something you make note of as a coach? First time since the first year at the Division I level that the women's basketball team has accomplished that feat.
You know, to be honest with you, I didn't even realize that we had won 10 until we were riding the bus on the way home and I looked at the box score. We're just kind of taking them one at a time. We had a lot of other things to manage and a lot of other things to worry about, losing 8 straight. So it was one of those where we were kind of surprised when we saw it and kind of delighted.
Well, trying to make it back-to-back wins this week, a pair of home games to close out the season against 2 teams you played on a road trip earlier this year. Start with Charleston Southern on Thursday, a team that you beat earlier this season by 15 down south.
Yeah, Charleston Southern's very talented offensive team. They're still missing Rochelle Coward, who was one of the preseason first-team player of the year. And she hasn't played all year, so that's really affected them. But they play hard. They'll probably come out and zone us, and they're very capable of putting up a ton of points if we don't play well.
Mentioned Chelsea had the big game and the victory over UNC Asheville. Well, she had 23 and 12 in that win earlier this season down at Charleston Southern, so another matchup that might favor her.
Yeah, Chelsea played very well when we were down there. It was probably her best defensive game of the year. She anticipated very well, got into the passing lanes, got a couple of steals, some easy baskets, and she played her normal, very effective game in the mid-range.
What about Presbyterian on Saturday, a team that now you're looking to even the season series with after they picked up a win against you guys earlier this year?
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of that game earlier today. They're a very, very meticulous team. They run their sets very well. And I think what we have to do is what we tried to do down there is take them out of, throw their timing off, take them out of what they want to do and force them to make plays. Down there we did it for about 25 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes kind of got a little bit away from us. But I think we played pretty well down there, so hopefully it'll be a better result up here.
2 games to go in the regular season before the Big South Conference tournament. You're sitting right now in 8th in the Big South Conference. 2 games to go, and Radford and Coastal Carolina just ahead of you. How much are you thinking about those standings going into the final week?
We'll be watching scores. There's no doubt about it. We understand what needs to happen in order for us to move up. Unfortunately, we won't get the bye that we had set the goal for. But we know what needs to happen in order to move up in the standings. And for our part, we have to win 2 games. So we'll take care of what we can and just kind of feed off of what else happens.
Have the tiebreaker with Radford, don't with Coastal. And for our fans who haven't looked at the bracket yet, getting out of that 8th place spot would avoid a second-round matchup with Liberty, who you found out earlier this year on 2 separate occasions just how good they are this year.
Yeah, and we don't match up very well with Liberty. That's something that if we were put in that situation again, we would definitely try something different. But to correct you a little bit, we do have the tiebreaker against Coastal Carolina, do not have the tiebreaker against Radford. Now, a lot of things happen, that could change that, but kind of set you straight there a little.
I appreciate it, Coach. Well, and let's look ahead to the Big South Conference tournament. Last time that we're going to meet before we head down to Myrtle Beach. Just got to be exciting for you and the team to have that opportunity to play for a conference championship and potentially a spot in the NCAAs.
Yeah, that's what everybody dreams of. That's what we've been waiting 10 years for, is the opportunity to play in conference tournament, get the opportunity to go to the NCAAs. We have to work this week, try to build upon what we started at UNC Asheville and be prepared for next week, I think. Just kind of keep building. I think our health is coming back, and it's just a matter of getting back to where we were playing our best.
And you've alluded to that a bit earlier in the season when we've spoke, but is there anything that you do differently in this final week of the season to prepare for the Big South Conference tournament?
Other than getting video ready, getting scouting reports updated, depending upon who we play, we'll know Saturday evening who it's going to be and what bracket we're in, so we'll be prepared for all that.
Well, Coach, as always, we appreciate you taking the time. Good luck this week and in the Big South Conference tournament. I know this is your highlight of the week, so you'll be sad to see it come to a close, but this is our final Coach's Corner here today.
Yeah, absolutely, but I'm completely expecting you and I to come in here and do this every Tuesday regardless of whether there's a camera running.
You're on. Thursday and Saturday of next week, 2 home games for the Lancers, as they'll have a 7 o'clock start against Charleston Southern on Thursday night and a 2 o'clock afternoon start on Saturday against Presbyterian. You can catch that all right here on Longwood Lancers TV and the Big South Network and here on longwoodlancers.com.